Hi, my name's Nikki Mendham from Souls Education, and based on questions that I've had recently from my clients, I've created a series of videos to help you to understand how human design can work for you. The videos are designed to provide you with a pathway. So in this set of videos, I'm actually working with how you create your chart, which was in the previous video. And in this video, I'm going to be looking at the different parts of the chart, what they actually mean to you. And following on from that in this series, I'm going to be looking at how the charts within the genetic matrix systems work from a talking charts point of view. I'm also going to be looking as well at animal charts, how to create those, how to manage those, how to work with them. And the same with the relationship charts, how two individual energies coming together, combine, and how they work. So if you're interested in human design, wanting to find out a little bit more about this, then please subscribe, because there will be a lot more videos that are going to be loaded up in the coming weeks. So let's have a look at the design chart. You know, what is human design? Where do we actually start with it? So it's actually a blend of ancient systems that are designed to call out your greatest potential by revealing your true nature. It really speaks to the potential that's within you by reframing your story. We carry a lot of our ancestral past in our DNA. So it's really about teasing out the the past, teasing out what isn't yours by actually looking at who you are and allowing any past experiences that don't serve you, or that are not part of your makeup, to just fall away. We are a result of our history. We can't change that, but what we can do is we can highlight who we are in this incarnation. So this is what human design does. It actually speaks to the potential that's within you by reframing your story, which is why I use it to actually underpin my coaching sessions. So the human design system was introduced by Alan Krakauer. He was later known as Ra Uru in 1987, and this is the original human design. And it's a combination of Western or Vedic astrology. It's typically Western. And also the Chinese I Ching Book of Change, the Kabbalah system, the Hindu chakra system, and also quantum physics. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using Karen Curry Parker's language. But if I first tell you about Ra Uru, he was out in Ibiza in 1987 when he had this huge download of information, and he was provided with details of the body graph, how to use this. And he was spoken to by the voice, what he calls the voice, and it gave him a whole teaching, and he was gifted to him as a tool for the children. This is the gift for the children. But first and foremost, he had to deliver it to the parents, to the adults, to wake them up into their conscious state so that they could guide the children more effectively. So my background is very much in the chakra system from a yogic point of view. So this really resonated with me when I saw this. So this is why I introduce this to my coaching sessions, because it really forms the development cycles of the psyche, of the emotions, and also of the physical body. Being a Reiki master as well in my practice, it really helps me to understand on an intellectual level, as opposed to just on a subtle body level, how things form within people's psyche. So this has really, really helped me for my life coaching sessions. So Ra unfortunately died in 2011, so a lot of his language is very much about speaking to the not self, the person who is conditioned. And that conditioning comes from many different places. It can come from, you know, your heritage, it comes through your DNA lineage, it comes from epigenetics. It's been proven to show that we can go back up to 14 generations and see that a trait from somebody within your lineage can actually be playing out in you. It's almost as though the genetic imprint is the bullet that's loaded into the gun. And if the circumstances are right for that, the trigger can then go off. So what we want to do with human design is bring that awareness to what the loaded gun looks like and what the trigger looks like, so that you have more control over your life, your decisions, your emotions. And this is what Ra Uru was really talking about. Now, where Karen Curry Parker comes into this is she was one of the first life coaches in the world. And she goes back 25 years with her life coaching, and she worked with Ra for about 12 years. And she was able and in a better position to be able to carry on his work in a more lighter, enlightened language form. So for the purpose of this slide, I am actually going to be using Karen Curry Parker's wording. And then also Richard Rudd worked with Ra for a period of time, and he has also come up with his own pathway. And the system that I showed in the previous video, which is Genetic Matrix, I will place a link to that if you haven't already seen that. It shows you how to create your chart, where to go, information that you need to be able to create your chart. So there is a separate video that I will add into the link below this video. But he creates a clear pathway as well for you to work through. So they're pretty influential people within the realm of human design. So if you haven't already seen one, this is what a human design chart looks like. And in the previous videos I've mentioned, it actually goes through a step-by-step guide as to how to set up your chart and manage it and how to use that. So for the purpose of this video, I've put it together as Joe Bloggs, who was born on the 1st of January 1974 in Exeter. So you can see all of his birth details up in the top left-hand corner. And the language that I'm talking about with Karen Curry Parker is the first one. So Ra called this particular type of energy a generator, and Karen Curry Parker is calling it the alchemist. Now, there are 5 different energy types, which we're going to have a look at in a minute. So you've got your type, you've also got your inner authority, the profile, the definition, the strategy. So there's quite a bit of information that you actually receive from this. And in later videos, I will be looking more deeply at these different types, the authorities, the profile. But for the purpose of this video, I will just be briefly touching on this. This system takes generally about 2 years to learn. So, you know, this is really layered learning that I want to go through with you. So I don't want to overload you with lots and lots of data, lots and lots of information. This is just to get you started. But this is what it looks like. And you can see the body graph. You can see that there are 9 centers on there. And you can see that some of them are colored in and some of them are white. You can also see that there are channels as well, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So whether you've got red lines, red and black lines, or just black lines, and some of them are white as well. And then you can also see planetary arrangements on either side of the body graph. So on the left-hand side, this relates to the body, and on the right-hand side, this relates to the mind. And we'll go into a little bit more information about that in a second. So this is generally what your body graph looks like. So when you run your chart, you will actually produce one of these. So your type is actually comes from the different type of centers that are defined. When we see them colored in, this is called a defined center, and there are 4 motor centers. So the sacral center is the workforce and the life force energy, and this depicts the energy that runs through the generator types, which we'll look at in a second. We've also got the root center, which is an adrenaline pressure. So this pressure is on, but then it's off, 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 and then it will come back on again. So it has its own pulse, and it's very much based in divine timing. This is adrenaline, so you don't need adrenaline all the time. Now, where people start to fall down in their emotional states, their physical states, is when burnout occurs, and that's generally because we're pushed for deadlines, we're pushed for having to manage multiple things, when actually the energy isn't always there for us to be managing and pushing all the time. And when we push against that, it can create problems for us. We've also got the will center, which is a work to rest center. So this is your material plane center. This builds up money like a storage bank. It builds up money through work. In order to then be able to rest, it needs periods of rest. So there are cycles within this, and the same with the emotional center as well. That also has what we call a wave. So it has a wave of emotion depending on the definition of your emotional solar plexus energy. So depending on which one of these you actually have defined will determine what your type is. So this is our collective family, and it's really important to learn about all of the types. So you might have just found out that you're a generator, or you might have found out that you're a projector. Now, it's really important that first and foremost you look at which type you are and have a study of that. But it's also really important as well to look at the other types, because this is your overarching type. So if you were to take a computer or several computers, you're in an office, there's lots of different computers going on. Now, they will all have the same source of energy. They'll all plug into that same circuitry system. But how that energy runs through can be very different. So it may be that the person that you're sitting next to has an Apple and you're working from an HP. So the computers are going to work in very different ways. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you can't have the software from an Apple computer put onto the HP and vice versa, but predominantly that very first stage, it's hitting that particular computer. So this is your overarching energy structure. This is typically the dominant, nature that you will be presenting. But the reason why I'm saying learn the other types as well is because when we start looking at the centers and we start looking at the gates in particular, there are some gates that take the characteristics of different types. So for example, you could be a projector, but also you will have certain qualities and certain traits that the generator will bring. Or you might be a manifesting generator, but there are also qualities that the projector that you will experience. So when we go further down the learning, you get into a lot of detail about which gates need to be projected, which gates need to be generated. So when we're looking at our little family type, you've got the sacral beings, which are the generators and the manifesting generators. And you've got the non-sacral beings, which are the projectors, the manifestors, and the reflectors. And you can see down at the bottom that almost 70% of people have this sacral energy, and the remainder don't. And I'll go on to explain what that means in a second. So that is our collective family. That is the population of this planet and how the energy runs through the population of the planet. So when we're looking at the energy types, we've got the manifestor that I want to look at first. So they only account for about 10% of the population. And what this means from a motorized energy type, remember we said about there's a motor energy in the root chakra down at the bottom, this square here. We've also got the sacral center, which is a workforce energy. We've got the work to rest energy in the will center. And we've also got that wave energy in the emotions, how our emotions go up and down. So for a manifester, they always have energy from a motor center going to the throat. So that can be through the will center here, it can be through the emotional center, or it can come via the spleen through the root center. But there is always a motor to the throat in the manifester. And what that then creates in that particular person is this ability to take an idea, take an inspiration, and inspire it into a place of action. And what I mean by that is, I don't want you to get caught up in the idea that only manifestors can manifest. We all manifest, we all have the ability to manifest, but it's just a different way that the manifestors work. It's a different way that the generators work. It's a different way that the projectors work. We all manifest. It's just that with the manifestors in particular, and Karen Curry Parker's language is that they are initiators. It's a very internal process, is the manifestor energy. So it's about informing and then initiating. So with this particular energy, the way that they create, the way that they manifest, it's a very internal, non-verbal process. And once they're in their stream of creativity, they can just go off and they can manifest, they can create. And that gives them a real sense of peace and a real sense of power. But if that process is stopped at any point, or they find themselves in a position where they can't create in this way, then they can become quite angry. So that's just a brief idea of how the manifesting energy works. When we look at the generators, we can now see that they have this permanent energy that runs through the sacral center. So when they have work that they absolutely love, or a passion project that they absolutely love, and that could be a hobby, it could be their children, it could be their family. If they're really, really feeling passion, then this energy is on permanently. And it keeps running and running and running, and it gives that permanent source of energy. So they're actually able to take the information from the manifestors and turn that into inspiration. So like I say, they can still create their own experiences, but what they have to do is they have to wait for a response. So there's nothing wrong with a generator having wonderful ideas, great ideas, but what they have to do, instead of being able to put them straight into action like the manifestor can do, they have to hold on to that idea and they have to wait for it to appear in their external world. There's only the manifestor type, the initiator, who can actually create from their internal world, have the idea and go straight to production. All of the other energy types actually have to wait. So with the generators in particular, this is about waiting to respond to something that appears in the outer world. So you can have the thought in the morning, but you have to hold on to that thought. The moment that you start to try and initiate that and go out and seek it, so it may be that you have thought about having a holiday in the morning and then you instantly go down to breakfast and start having, getting all of the holiday brochures out and start booking it. That is you actually initiating, which is not your program. So when you actually create this thought in your mind and hold that there, and then suddenly you see adverts on the TV, or you see a billboard with information on it, or you get an email about a holiday, then that is your outer world presenting that to you, and that is something that you can respond to. And when you're working to your strategy, then you receive great satisfaction in everything that you're doing. There's no frustration, there's no stumbling blocks. So that's how the generator works. They actually turn inspiration into form. And they're there really to support the manifestors. The manifestors don't have the energy like the generators do to be able to do the work. They're here to start the work, but not to see it through. They then hand that work to the generators because that's what they're built for. And another version of the generator, again, still having to wait for a response, but the manifesting generators, or the time benders, as Karen Curry Parker calls them, are here to, again, turn inspiration into form, but to take it as quickly as they possibly can in the process. So try and find the quickest route from point A to point B. And that gives them great satisfaction. So they wait for the response in the same way that the manifestors do. But once they get that realization, they envisage it, they need to inform people around them that they're going to be going off and creating and not to be disrupted, because that creates anger. And then they can take that action. And it's only at the moment that they're just about to create, go into that creative mode, will they actually know yes or no, is this for me? So don't be surprised if you know a manifesting generator who agrees to go along with an idea, but then suddenly at the point of creation, if it doesn't feel right for them to back out. So don't hold any expectations. But once they do get into that creative space and it is something that is worth their time and their effort, they are fast. They are extremely powerful beings. The energy that surges through them is immense. So, and as well with the manifesting generator, it's also important for them to have lots of different things to be working on, lots of different projects, because their energy is so quick. So then we come to the projectors, or the orchestrators, and this is an increase in population. They've only been around on this planet since 1781. They account for about almost 23% now. And they are actually here to anchor the energetic template of what we are here to create. So what the manifestors are here to bring into realization for the generators to work, the projectors are actually clearing the energy for that to happen. So they're aligning the energy of the world and healing the energy of the planet and bringing us into a different state of being for the manifestor then to draw in inspiration and then, you know, create a clear, crystal clear, pure invention or creation, you know. So these are the guys that are ahead. They're always ahead of their time. So it's really important for projectors to wait to be recognized and invited, because some of their stuff to the general population sounds as though it's really off the wall. You know, they're so far in the future of creation and how the world should look and how the planet can be. They have this real sense of justice and how things should happen, and they're very, very good at creating corrections. But if you have a population that are not quite there yet to hear what this new plan is that the projectors are creating, it can really create a lot of pain for the projector, especially when they talk out of term. So they have really long cycles of having to wait for people to catch up with them and to recognize what it is that they're saying. So it's a very, very powerful energy. And without an invitation to speak, they really get pushed to a side, they really get snubbed. And when they're feeling that success, you know, when all of that is working for them, they feel really, really successful. But when they can't express and they're not understood, then this bitterness can rise up in them, this real deep sense of disappointment that people aren't singing from the same page, that they're living, you know, this old way of living. There's a real frustration builds up in them. So that's the projector energy. And then finally, we have the reflector, and this is a very rare energy type. There's only 1.45% of the population that are reflectors, and they are here as the barometer of the alignment of humanity, and it's very much through their heart center. So they actually feel, you know, the community that they're living in. So they kind of mirror back the state of the community. and they're very slow at working. They have to wait a full lunar cycle. And when I say slow, that's not to their detriment. It's really important that they wait for their cycle, because they have the ability to take on lots and lots of different types of energy. So in that, they need this whole month, at least one lunar cycle, to figure out, if they're trying to make a decision, is this my energy or is this somebody else's? Because they can really home in on everybody that's around them. They can really take in everybody's information, and they need that time to go through a process of, is this my energy or is this somebody else's energy? And when they're in their positive expression, it can be really surprising for them. You know, life can really take them by surprise, and this unexpected, you know, childlike wonder that's within them when things are going to plan. But when they're not going to plan, they can be deeply disappointed in, you know, they see the potential of, you know, what their community can be like. And that can be really disappointing when people aren't working to their highest potential. So it's really important to keep an eye on our reflectors, because they are the barometer of the community. They will give you a sense of, is this community thriving or is it wilting? So that's your types that are within the chart. And Ra, when it comes to the in authority, says that what you can trust to make a decision, it's never the mind. So the in authority actually lies within the body. You know, we create in the first 7 years of our life our defense mechanisms. And whatever happens to us beyond that point on a physical level is a direct result of what's gone on in the first 7 years of our life. So our body has to feel safe before it can go into a situation. It has to be the right time for the body. The body has to be willing, it has to have enough energy as well to take you from, you know, state A to state B, from journey A to journey B. So, you know, when we transit, when we move through experiences in our life, yes, you know, we can call on the mind for inspiration and ideas, but actually it's the body that you have to move from one point to another. And it's that has to feel safe. So this is where our inner authority comes into play. So there are actually 7 different types. So we've got the emotional decision-making authority, which is here, which is almost 50% of the population. And this runs on a wave. So for some of the waves, it can be in connection with the family, it can be a tribal wave, it can be in connection with a decision that they're making for themselves, like an individual, or it can be around decisions that are being made on behalf of the collective. So there are different types of waves. And for this particular decision making, there's no truth in the moment. This isn't an immediate decision that can be made. It needs time to come to that place of clarity, and it will go through several different waves, you know. And if at the top of the wave, when you're in the good mood, the decision feels right, then log that, really recognize that. But also when it's in its low ebb, be aware that, you know, again, is it a yes for this decision or is it a no? And follow the wave. And until you get a really, really clear yes or a really, really clear no at both the top and the bottom of the wave, then that's basically what it is. You know, you have to go through that up and down wave and through a period of time to gain clarity on your decision making, which is very unlike the splenic energy, which is around about 10% of the population. This is very much in the moment. This is our reactive state in the splenic energy. So it works on our immediate physical needs. So with the splenic energy, you can rely on that whatever it gives, and the same as the sacral energy as well, which accounts for 35%, whatever the decision is in that particular moment then is actually correct for you, if you're connected to your body and not your mind. When we start going into the mind, that's when things go wrong. So we must remember it's the body that makes the decision. The other one is the self-projected. This comes from the heart energy. So this is very much about making decisions about where to be, who to be with. Have you got the right people in your life for making the right decisions? Or the people that you are surrounding yourself with, your environment, not the correct one for you? So this is generally, with the self-projected, is very much about decisions that are made around environment, about working place. For you in particular, if you're planning on moving from one place to another, it's important that you actually go and place yourself there to see what the energy feels like. So there's only a small percentage of this population that are self-projected. And then we also have the mental projected, which works for 3.53% of the population. And they're very open in their decision making. So yes, there is a mental process that goes with this, but it's also about making sure that the body feels safe. It's always about, does this feel safe? Is this the right time? Is this, am I willing to do this? Do I have the right amount of energy to do this? This is very much from a projector point of view, and it doesn't have any motors. As you can see, there are no motors that are defined in this decision making. So it doesn't have the energy to power it through. So it really has to sit with its decisions, and the body really has to feel that it's safe. And then we've got the ego decision-making authority. This can be seen both in the projector types and also the manifesting types. And with this particular energy, it has to hear its own words. So quite often, as it's actually speaking, the words are coming out of the mouth and they're kind of reflecting back, they're bouncing back into them for them to hear what their decision actually is. So it takes them on a whole journey with themselves. And with this particular type of energy, with this particular type of person, if you know somebody who is ego, decision making, it's just important to be the sounding board. You don't need to offer them advice or any information. They can come up with that for themselves, but they just need that engagement. They just need to get the words out of their mouths to hear that loop back to be able to make a decision. And then the final one is the lunar decision. Again, this is for the reflectors who have to wait the full lunar cycle, the 28 days, to make sure that it's their energy that they're reacting to and nobody else's. So they're your different decision-making types. When you look at your body graph, you will see down either side of the body graph, flanking the body graph, you've got planetary positions on the left-hand side that relate to the body, which are highlighted in red. And you've got the mind planetary alignments on the right-hand side, which are in black. So the body works with our unconscious, and it doesn't generally come into our awareness until about in our 40s. And then the mind is very much about our conscious state. And this is what we do in the world. This is how we present ourselves externally. The body, the unconscious side, is very much about who we are. So it takes you a little bit more time to figure out who you are as opposed to what you do. So when we're looking at the profile, this will give you a number, and it's relating to the second number that is actually on your planetary alignment. So for example, this first one here is the gate number, and the second one is the line number. And the profile is made up of the conscious sun and also the unconscious sun. So for this person in particular, they are a 1-4 in the terms of personality. So in profile. So we take the personality key first, and then we take the unconscious body key as the second number. And there are 12 profile numbers, made up of 6 different lines, and the lines are the different lenses. So when we start looking at these gates, you'll actually have the gates are the personality traits, but the line is how you view that personality, the lens that you actually look at it through. So for this person in particular, being a 37, this is very much about an energy of tenderness when it's in its positive state. But when it's feeling down, it's not energized, it's not feeling safe, it feels threatened, it can be very weak. It can be a very weak energy. So with the first line, this person in particular will take a lot of time investigating what that means to them, what tenderness means to them, what weakness means to them. And this is how they will present themselves out in the world. So like I say, there are 6 different lines, and when you combine each of the body and the mind lines together, they make up 12 profiles. So the next thing I want to look at with you is the difference between openness and definition. And I like to see this as a radio station. So with a defined center or defined gates, which we will look at in a second, the definition is almost as though you've got a radio and you're tuned into one particular channel. And some of it you can love, some of it you can hate. So these are the 2 balances within the personality, the opposite ends of the personality, but pretty much you've got one channel that you can listen to. So it's fairly fixed. And what that creates for you is this ability within a fixed parameter to decide what it is that you like and what you don't like. So if you look at your personality, if we take that 37th key, you might really, really, really love the sound of one particular song, and it brings you into a really place of tenderness. But then on that same channel, you might hear another song and it might really weaken you, but it's the same channel. So you have a really narrow, you have a really fixed narrative that you can actually work with. So it keeps you really focused. And with this particular energy, if you like that song, you'll really be singing it. You'll be really bellowing it out for other people to hear. So it's an energy that really radiates out. But also, you've got that earworm going on as well with the songs that you don't particularly like. And subconsciously, you're also singing that out as well. So there are 2 different versions of this. You've got the polarities within this, but with the definition, it's very fixed within a set framework as to what you experience, but this energy is innate in you and it radiates out. When we're looking at openness, this is where the centers and the lines are all white in your chart. This is a place where you have multiple channels, you have access to multiple channels, and you can experience the good songs in there, the negative songs in there, the ones that you like, the ones that you don't like. But somewhere in amongst all of that is you, because you are all of your charts. Even if you're open in certain parts, you are still, all of it. So with the open centers and the open gates, this gives you an opportunity to listen to all of the different radio stations, experience all of the positives and negatives within the radio range. You get the opportunity to sing all of the songs, radiate all of that out. But it gives you an opportunity to listen and decide which ones you want. So the openness is a real place of potential wisdom. You can really experience lots of different energies in these open centers. The downside of it is it can be deeply conditioned, because if you're around people that only want a set channel on, then you're only going to get to hear that channel. And if you're in somebody's energy for prolonged periods of time that are playing rock music when you like classical music, it gets draining, it gets worn out, and sometimes you can fight against it and leave, or sometimes you can actually change your whole personality around it, to like rock when you really don't. So this is where our conditioning can start, to come out. So whenever I work with somebody from a life coaching point of view, I always look at their openness first. I always look at where they could potentially be conditioned. So how this looks like on your body graph is you'll see that each of these centers have different colors. There's no real rhyme or reason to the colors, but they actually fill out each of the centers in a various color. And this is your defined centers. This is your innate expression. This is what comes naturally to you. And this is what you're radiating out into the world. It's permanent in you. It's constantly singing. And this is what other people pick up. So when we move to the open centers, which are the white areas, if you're in the presence of somebody who is singing a song, like I say, you've got that earworm. And, hopefully it's in a line with what you like, because what you do with that energy is you take it in and you amplify it. So somebody who is defined could just sing that one song once and then they're done with that. But as somebody who is open, they will actually take that song in and they'll probably sing it several times throughout the day, over and over and over and over and over again. So it's really important to be careful whose song you're singing until you actually find your own version. So like I say, this creates a really good place of wisdom, potential wisdom, or it can create a place of conditioning. So when we look at the gates, we're looking at each of these numbers. There are 64 of them. They all carry a certain quality, a certain personality with them, and they can work from a range of extremely negative to extremely positive. And we all have all of these gates. We are all the expression of all of these gates. It's just that sometimes it's defined, so coloured in, that one song that you're singing, and sometimes it can be open, white, where you're taking in other people's information. And this is where, like I say, it's really important for you to learn about the people that are around you, learn about the environment that is around you. It's not just people that this conditioning comes from. It comes from our planetary alignments. It comes from the environment that we're in. It comes from the food that we're eating. There are multiple layers of conditioning. So when we looked at the body graph, we had the black conscious mind. So the gates are highlighted here if it's to do with your persona, to do with how you present yourself out in the world. And then the unconscious, which is the red here, this is the body. This comes from who you are as a person. The white is the place of conditioning or wisdom. And then when each of these link up, so say for example here, the 19th and the 49 link up together within one person, this is what is called a channel. So it's not looking for the other personality to this. They all have a deep connection with each other. So for example, if I was to look at the 3740, in this instance, this is a gate of friendship. So when these two join, they create a bond. It's very much about a tribal energy, creating a bond to bring in resources, because it links up this center here. So with your channels, it gives you access to each center. So you can see here that the root center is defined because the 19th gate is defined. And then because the 49 is also defined, it gives you access to this emotional energy. Now, if we had a situation with this 37 gate, so this is the song that this person is singing, and somebody else comes into your energy field, or you're in relationship with somebody who has the 40th gate, then what this will then do is it will bring energy on a temporary basis. This is not fixed, it's not your energy, but you have access to this energy in the will center for the time that you're with that particular person. So not only will you have the potential for emotional energy, the wave that comes from that, but you will also have temporarily the energy for creating material wealth, for worthiness, feeling your worthiness. This is the place of higher will, higher spirit. Or, like I say, if you're in the energy of somebody who is negative, you could also pick up, if you're not aware of this, you could also pick up the negative traits of the will center, which is very egotistical and doesn't like to be challenged. It doesn't like to be told things. So what happens with the hanging gates, this is what this is, a hanging gate where you've only got one gate and it doesn't create a full channel. It's like a magnet, and it actually magnetizes and pulls in the 40th gate. It's always looking for the opposite end of the channel. So when you work at a later point on relationships, as I do with the life coaching, and I'm also going to show you within the following videos how to create your relationship chart. So like I say, if you're interested in that, please subscribe. But what it does is it actually creates that bridge. We're looking for the bridge. So the hanging gates within us are always highly magnetized. They're always looking for the opposite end of the gate. So when we run the charts together, we can actually see, I'll show you here because I've got one, when we join our forces, you actually get to see how this works together. So in particular, this person here is a projector with only 2 centers defined. When they come into the energy of this person here who is a generator, you can see how the charts combine. And down here, you can actually see all of the attraction charts. So you can see how this is actually created by linking up. So if we take the 61st gate, for example, so the projector has the 61st gate and the generator here has the 24th gate. So what this does when they're in each other's energy is their combined energy creates a deep awareness. So whenever you're actually making any decisions, because the whole point of this energy system and this magnetized state is to get energy to the throat. The throat is our creation, place of creation. So it's about getting as much energy from our motor centers to the throat through connections. So if ever you're wanting to really create something, the best place to go is a coffee shop or in a really busy workplace, because somebody in that space within you is going to have, all of the energies. When you put all of the combined forces together, somebody somewhere should have enough energy with the combined forces to get that energy from the motor center up to the throat for creation. So, this is where your brainstorming comes from, in groups, being in each other's energy. So I just wanted to show you that. And then just going back to the planetary positions, these are the positions of the planets when you were born. So on the right-hand side, the mind side is all about the point of birth. And on the body side, the red, this is the point about 3 months before your birth. So in that, you've got the sun, you've got the moon, you've got the north and south nodes, and you've also got the planetary alignments at that point. And it determines at those particular key times, it determines our conscious and our unconscious states, what we do and who we are. And each of the planets bring another layer to your chart. This is multi-layered, is this chart. So it brings a theme or an influence to the chart. So when I'm working with people and I'm looking at certain aspects, certain challenges that they have, I will actually look at the planetary arrangements, and I will also take into consideration their age, because various planets have different impacts at different ages. So that again is another layer to the planetary, alignments, the way that your makeup is. And I would say it's probably one of the most accurate sources that I've ever found. I'm a Reiki practitioner, I am a kinesiologist, I do various body work, I do the life coaching, but this is the one thing that's really underpinned everything, and it's brought everything together for me in my practice. So if you're just learning about human design, if you're just finding out your type, finding out your authority, please let me know in the comments what your type is, what revelations you've received about who you are, what fits, what doesn't fit. The previous video, which I will link into this one, tells you how to get your chart if you haven't already got that. It tells you how to manage your chart, how to change your chart. So it goes through quite a few instructions. And like I say, I will be, the next video will be about talking charts. So there's a software program that actually talks to you. So you can order those. That will be the next video that I do. And then I'll also be looking at the animal charts, and I'll also be looking at the relationship charts. So if that's something that you're interested in, then please stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you again.